What is up, guys? Hope everybody is having a great day. Today, I wanted to talk about the concept of constantly getting better. And so, I've learned in my life over the last 5 years, I think one of the things that oftentimes happens with people is they get complacent. And I talked about this in the other video about like your circles of greatness and how you'll have bad circles that you create, but you'll get kicked out of circles if you get complacent. And so today I wanted to talk about a couple of things that I feel like can really separate you from other people in your industry. The first one is the ability to go the extra mile, right? And so I've talked about this before. Is one of the things I always talk about to people on my team is the $10,000 mindset method. And so the $10,000 mindset method is this, is that if you were getting paid $10,000 to do something, whether it was as simple as getting a bottle of water or as simple as taking a photo or as simple as shaking somebody's hand, what would you do differently? And if you think about what you would do differently, oftentimes 90% of the stuff that you could do is 100% free. And so I believe that if you want to achieve the highest level of success, that you need to do all those little things now in order to get there. So that's stuff as simple as like really honing in on your craft, like getting to places early, shaking hands with people, making sure you have a clear understanding, right? Because I think what happens in life, and really as far as like the corporate world versus like people who are entrepreneurial, who want to achieve great things, is that in the corporate world, I believe sometimes people get rewarded for people are focused on not being punished versus being praised. And I heard this once before, but it's like a lot of times when people get paid for a service, and this is people anywhere from like corporate people who just have the basic 9 to 5, all the way to people who have a business but it's not growing. They are focused on doing the absolute minimum in order to just get a check. And I'm here to tell you, if you are somebody who wants to have a growing business, but you're doing the absolute minimum just to get a check, you won't last very long, because there's lots of people out there who are just like you, who do the same skill that you have and do the same skill that you do, who are willing to go the extra mile. And so I will always tell you is put in the extra work and understand that nothing, like, you don't want to just do the bare minimum, but you always want to go the extra step. So that's the first one. The next one I've always seen is, and I always tell people, is to constantly invest in yourself. I think a lot of times what happens is people complain about what they don't have versus trying to figure out a way on getting what they need. And so, for example, in 2020 was really when my business started to grow. But really the first 4 months of 2020, all I did when it came to video was I used my iPhone, and I had a literally 8 foot long lavalier mic cord that plugged into my iPhone. So I would use that in order to shoot video. But as soon as I was able to make enough money, I bought a Canon 6D for $500 on eBay, right? As soon as I made a little bit more money, I bought another camera. So this allowed me to shoot 2 different angles. And so I think a lot of times what happens is people complain about what they don't have, but they don't have their priorities straight into getting things that are going to take them to the next level. I tell people all the time, I'm constantly trying out new equipment, new lights, new cameras, new softwares, utilizing AI, because at the end of the day, I'd rather spend my money on stuff like that than spend my money on stuff that isn't going to push me forward. And so I think a lot of times I'll see people where they may need a second camera, or if they're a graphic designer, they may need a certain software, but they're not going to spend the money on it because they would rather go hang out with their friends. They'd rather go out on vacation. And I know in my life that investing in myself was the best thing that I ever did. And I never really understood when people said the best investment you can make is in yourself. I never understood that early, but now I preach it to everybody I know, because of the fact that if you invest in yourself, it allows you to separate yourself from others. I think that what I've learned and what I've seen, the difference between a 1-year entrepreneur, a 5-year entrepreneur, and then when I look at 10 and 20-year entrepreneurs, is the fact that they are constantly investing in themselves and they don't really get complacent in anything they do. And then the last thing that I would tell you is don't step over dollars to pick up pennies. And this is probably one of the most important things I could tell you right now. I think a lot of times what happens is when people start a business, they have everybody and anybody saying good job, and then there's a whole lot less people who actually purchase the service. But then there's a couple of people who want to try to form a long-term relationship with you, and those are the partnerships that you need to focus on. I'll give you a clear example in my life. As you guys know, I always talk about my buddy Ali Jamal. And so Ali Jamal gave me my first really big long-term contract, right? It got to the point where I knew that I needed to over deliver on this, that if there was somebody who wanted to talk about a one-off project and we had a meeting scheduled, but Ali wanted to meet, I would actually cancel this meeting to make sure I met with Ali, because my mindset was always, somebody is willing to invest in me in the long term. I can't put them to the side just because I'm getting more opportunities. And I think that's where a lot of people drop the ball. For example, if you're, let's say, a graphic designer and you have a couple of companies on retainer, but your favorite music artist all of a sudden says, hey, do this one-off project for me. In the immediate short term, that may look like a great idea. But I'm here to tell you, if you do that project and you put everybody else on the back burner, what that's going to show other people is that you're willing to put them on the back burner just to do something cool and just to really worry about the short term versus forming long-term partnerships. And so I think that's where a lot of entrepreneurs who are growing drop the ball sometimes, is they're not worried about forming long-term partnerships. They're worried about getting all the cool opportunities. And I'm here to tell you that the cool opportunities sometimes, for the most part, aren't usually long-term, but those long-term opportunities that can change your life are oftentimes not as cool as working with your favorite celebrity or working with famous people, but those are the ones that are going to propel you into the next level of excellence for your business. I know that I've been blessed to get a couple of long-term partnerships, which have branched off into exponential growth in my business. Whereas if I was focused on a bunch of one-off projects with influencers and athletes and things, I don't think I would be where I'm sitting today. So make sure you don't step over dollars to pick up pennies, because that's oftentimes the number one thing that a lot of businesses do, which causes them to not have longevity. And so I wanted to get on here and tell you these three things, because as we go into 2025, a lot of people have goals and a lot of people have dreams. And so I can speak on my experience as to what I believe is going to take you to the next level. But everything I'm telling you is something that I've experienced in my own life. That's another thing that I would tell you going into 2025. Only listen to people who have done what you're trying to do, right? Don't listen to somebody who reads books all day and acquires knowledge. Listen to somebody who applies knowledge. It's like if you saw somebody who was overweight and they told you all the knowledge about push-ups and exercise, right? You wouldn't necessarily listen to them. But if somebody was in great shape at the gym and they were giving you tips and advice to do curls a certain way or something, you would be more inclined to listen to them. So when it comes to your life, don't let that principle fall by the wayside. Listen to people who are trying to go where you're trying to go. Do the little things to separate yourself. And if you can do that, I promise you 2025 will be the best year for you. Have a great day and God bless.